Look at these goats.
Scoop. And there he goes.
They're the hilarious stars of viral videos, the subject of countless memes, and the source of endless entertainment. But while we laugh and share these videos with our friends, the reality for these goats is quite different. Nature has played a cruel trick on these animals, bestowing them with a bizarre feature that has left them struggling to live their lives. These incredible creatures possess an uncontrollable power, the ability to freeze when scared. But what happens when they're near a cliff's edge? The consequences can be deadly, and when the thunder roars, they all collapse. Is this really a superpower? These goats never asked for it, yet they must face its dangerous consequences every day. And then there are ants, who were born blind without any choice in the matter. In order to navigate their world, they secrete special pheromones to follow each other. But what happens when their algorithm fails and they begin to walk in circles, unable to find their way? It's a scene straight out of a mosh pit, ants scurrying and swirling around each other in a dizzying display only without music. Just the frenzied movement of countless tiny bodies. As more and more ants join the fray, the circle grows tighter, and the pace quickens until they drop dead from exhaustion. This strange and tragic spectacle can last for hours or even days until someone finally intervenes and saves the remaining survivors. In the 1920s, naturalist William Beebe discovered a strange and fascinating phenomenon, the ant mill. In one instance, he found a circle of marching ants that stretched over 370 meters, larger than even the famous Devil's Tower. Can you imagine the size? But ants aren't the only creatures to experience this bizarre behavior. Fish have been known to form similar circles, while tangled rats present a far more gruesome sight. Just take a look at the photo. It's enough to send shivers down your spine. It appears to be props for a horror film or modern art, but they are actually real rats that have perished after their tails became entangled, resulting in a gruesome and absurd death. This occurrence, known as Rat King, was initially identified in 1564. Yeah, the one from the Nutcracker. As hypothesized, rats form this king-like structure when their flexible tails get glued together by a mixture of skin fat, excrement, and leftover food. This mixture acts as a glue and can harden, especially during cold weather when rats sleep closer together. As the rats struggle to free themselves, the knot becomes tighter, resulting in the animal's deaths. While the Rat King has been observed in the past, and this occurrence remains exceedingly rare. In the past, the death of rats caught in such a manner was seen as a very bad omen. It's no wonder, because where the rats are, there are diseases. This is not usually said about spiders. Spiders are often considered to be beneficial to the environment, even though they are not always well-liked by people. However, in an interesting twist of fate, one particular spider was extremely fortunate. The spider had been a prisoner in a droplet of resin and became trapped within it for over 20 million years, resulting in the spider's body being perfectly preserved, much like an insect that is captured in amber. You must have seen this in the famous movie Jurassic Park. Imagine stumbling upon the perfectly mummified remains of a dog, teeth bared and ready for action. That's exactly what happened to a group of lumberjacks working in southern Georgia back in the 1980s. After cutting down a tree and loading it onto a truck, one of the workers peered inside the hollow trunk and made an astonishing discovery.
Perfectly mummified dog remains we're looking at them. Its teeth were still bare.
The experts who examined the remains believe that the dog became stuck while chasing a squirrel in the 1960s, climbing too high and being unable to turn around. But instead of becoming a feast for forest scavengers, the dog was perfectly preserved by the chestnut tree, which prevented decay and sucked the moisture out of its body, resulting in a unique and fascinating mummification. This is truly a one-of-a-kind case that demonstrates just how incredible nature can be. In the forest, any dead body is usually a feast for insects. These greedy creatures help scientists clean up skeletons, with some beetles devouring an entire deer or person. But what if a body got stuck in a fissure and became food at the same time? Well, let's not underestimate the beetles' efficiency. They've done an excellent job of cleaning the bones to perfection. But did you know that a deer can have a second life of sorts? No, I'm not talking about necromancy, but in the form of a prized collection for a lucky collector. Well, partially. Jim Phillips is no ordinary collector. He boasts a collection of over 16,000 deer, elk antlers, and antelope horns that he casually found over the course of 60 years. That's a lot of antlers. Well, how many horns did you find? While some may question his strange hobby, there's no denying that Phillips has a talent for searching. But let's shift our focus to the animal kingdom and its peculiar behaviors. Have you ever heard of self-cannibalism? Some animals take eating yourself to a whole new level. It may sound like a horror story, but it's real. Snakes, for instance, have been known to accidentally chow down on their own tails, mistaking them for prey. It's hard to say which scenario is more absurd: a snake gobbling up its own tail or a snake being fooled by its own rear end. Either way, if snakes could blush, they'd be beet red. This tiny bird's life hangs in the balance, and it's no laughing matter. The male hummingbird is swaying on the brink of starvation. These feathered wonders have lightning-fast metabolisms, with just 2 hours of not drinking nectar enough to finish them off. Some of them have to collect from flower to flower, visiting up to 2,000 in a single day just to survive. Suddenly, the carefree life of a bird doesn't seem so easy. But metabolism isn't the only problem. Even a simple rain shower can be a life-threatening ordeal for a hummingbird. The rain makes it impossible to eat, let alone fly, and every minute counts. Let's hope our little feathered friend pulls through. We can't say the same about this moose, because it's become a zombie, not like in a movie. Of course, it doesn't wander around the forest looking for the brains of other moose, but its own brain is failing it. It's like it's in a daze, walking aimlessly through the woods, with no sense of direction. It's like a real-life version of a zombie who is just lost in their own thoughts. But this isn't a horror movie. It's happening right in the forest.
It's classic brainworm symptom right there.
These parasites are carried by white-tailed deer, who are largely unaffected by them. But for the unlucky moose that contracts the worms, it's a whole different story. The worms make a beeline straight for the brain, burrowing deep into the animal's head and causing massive neurological damage. The result? A walking zombie moose that's doomed to a terrible fate. It's a brutal reminder that even the mightiest of creatures can fall victim to the tiniest of parasites. Of course, animals don't just come with their unique traits by chance. It's all thanks to evolution, or sometimes you might want to curse at it. It's a slow process that usually takes thousands or even millions of years, but sometimes evolution takes a leap. And no, we're not talking about superheroes like the X-Men. We're talking about elephants. Modern elephants wear tusks for a hell of a long time. Before that, mammoths wore tusks. So nature knows for sure that these huge animals need them. Huge tusks are one of their most recognizable features, and one of the main reasons people push elephants to extinction. In the 16th century, 26 million elephants roamed the African continent. Today, there are less than 500,000. By the 1970s and 1980s, poaching had reached a critical level. That's because, for a long time, people didn't think that killing animals was a bad thing. For example, everyone knows Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, during a safari, shot 512 different living creatures. Among them were also elephants. Animals died, not for fun, but to be exhibited in museums, and so that scientists could study them. But really, 512? Seriously, it seems to be too much. What's to say about the elephants that still suffer from poachers? Ivory is a luxury item in the Asian market. The bigger the tusks, the more money poachers can get from selling them. More than $1,000 per kilo of tusks are used to create art jewelry. Once they were even used as a material for piano keys. Unfortunately, all this puts elephants at risk, and animal rights activists can't protect them. And at this point, evolution is stepping up. In recent years, there has been a surge of tuskless baby elephants born in several African parks. The reason is simple. Poachers target elephants with large tusks, leaving those without them to mate and pass on their genes. It's a logical adaptation to the human threat that can't be ignored. As much as we try to change nature, nature will change to survive. Even if you're some tiny animal and you have your own animal problems, you probably have heard about the wall between the United States and Mexico. But what about the animals who call this region their home? From reptiles to amphibians and all kinds of mammals in between, a diverse range of species inhabit this area. Unfortunately, the construction of the wall threatens to disrupt their way of life, and many of them are far from thrilled about it. Rare and endangered species are particularly at risk, with their ranges being drastically reduced by this new barrier. Not only will their habitats be disrupted, but their very survival is now under threat. Animals will be cut off from water sources and unable to escape from fires or other dangers. With nowhere to turn, their only option is to run for their lives. It's not just the big and mighty who suffer from the wall, even the little guys are at risk. The midget owl flies low to the ground, and now with the wall in the way, it's in danger. And it's not just the animals, the plants and insects will also suffer from the limited migration. Of course, border security is crucial, but at what cost to the rest of the planet's inhabitants? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more exciting contents.